LA filing number 16-7969.
WNXX Jackson, KNXX Donaldsonville, and WDGL HD2 Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers. LA 21 12681. Offices in Baton Rouge. Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from Mercedes-Benz at Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Wednesday. Not have to work week in the rearview mirror. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Busy Wednesday. JD Pickell in his normal spot coming up here in 15 minutes. It's a What If Wednesday. We'll get into some of that. I've got a game-by-game projection on the New Orleans Saints. We're going to get into that in the second hour. So plenty to do here. Brian Kelly met with the assembled media on the SEC teleconference today. We got some sound from that. So lots and lots to do. Unfortunately, we'll start on a very, very, very somber note, as reportedly John Emery Jr.'s final season in college is done. Wilson Alexander of The Advocate posted a story here within the last 45 minutes saying that sources have indicated to he and the rest of the Advocate staff that John Emery suffered a torn ACL in yesterday's practice. Of course, we understand that John Emery suffered a torn ACL against Florida in November of last year. He rehabbed to get back from that injury. He was out there the first day of camp in a big bulky brace going through drills full speed, and was going to be someone this team counted on significantly at the running back spot, and he was the most effective back they had in the game on Sunday. Busted two nice runs in an otherwise pretty pedestrian running game for LSU. When the dust settled in the ballgame, he had 9 carries for 61 yards in the game, also had a catch for 10 yards, and again, was very much going to be an integral part of what LSU was trying to do in the running game, and it appears, based on Wilson's reporting, that LSU will not have John Emery in his time as a college football player likely done. Now, look, you've got a guy at Miami who's in his 9th year, so I can't claim to know every single in and out here of the rules and eligibility and all that, but we do understand that John Emery started his college career in 2019. He was a reserve on LSU's national championship team, played in 10 games that season. In 2020, the COVID year, he appeared in 9 games that year. His junior year in 2021, he did not participate with the football team due to some academic issues. Those got squared away. He came back in 2022 and played in his 5th year in college in 2023. He played in 7 games before tearing his ACL, and then he was back this year. So you look at 19 and then 20, but 20 doesn't count. And then 2021, he didn't play. Then you've got 2022, 2023, and then into 2024. Again, I can't sit here. The news is fairly fresh. I can't comb through the entirety of the regulations and rules. This would probably qualify as a medical red shirt because he only played in 1 game. Does he have one of those if you've missed a year in 2021 and then you don't count the COVID year? Perhaps. I could see a way that happens, but that's really not of consequence today. It's just a huge, huge bummer that John Emery has a season come to an end after just 1 week. This is a guy who has dealt with so much that I just outlined there. He's had such a long and winding road. And we saw after the end of last season, once he tore his ACL, he did briefly enter the transfer portal, and it looked like, hey, he's going to try to finish things up somewhere else. And now that he decided to come back to LSU, you figure he was going to be a big piece to what they were doing, and instead his season is cut short after just 4 quarters of action. So sincere thoughts with John Emery. So start another road to rehabilitation, whether or not he wants to play football again, whether or not he is eligible to return to LSU. Those are things that we'll worry about and that he'll certainly concern himself with moving forward. But the news today is that he won't be a part of this football team on the field moving forward, and that's a heartbreaking thing for a guy that's fought back from as many things as John Emery Jr. has. Now, what does it mean for LSU? If you were listening to the pregame show back on Sunday, I had Frank Wilson as my assistant coach interview of the week. And I have told y'all many times, I'm not trying to put a curtain up or anything. Like, when I go do these interviews with these assistant coaches, it is very, very quick. I go there generally on Thursday afternoon or Friday morning. I walk into their office. They're at the desk. We record an interview for literally 3 minutes. And I say, Coach, appreciate your time. Best of luck on Saturday and, in this case, Sunday, and walk out. Like, there's not a lot of small talk. I'm not trying to get in the way late in a game week while they're trying to prepare and they've got meetings and there's traveling coming up. And like, this is not a time for Hunt to dig in and pry and get a bunch of information. It's a quick deal because college football coaches' time is very, very valuable. So I don't tend to hang around a lot. But Frank Wilson's been around for a long time, and he does know who I am. He's gone through this process a few times with me over the years. So I did talk with Coach Frank for about 5 minutes outside of the interview. And one of the things I told him, I said, they all are a little thin on numbers at running back. He said, no, 4's fine. 4. He had no concern about having four tailbacks. He said last year when they had 8 at the beginning of camp, that's a recipe for disaster. You cannot please 8 running backs. That's just not going to happen. But he felt good about 4. Well, you cut that down to 3. You cut 25% out of that, and you realize there's a true freshman sitting there waiting that hasn't played at all. That is tight. And I think now, knowing what we know, 80 hours later from the time I talked with Coach Wilson, like, maybe it's not quite as good as it was on Friday. So this is a tough spot for LSU to be in. You've got Josh Williams, who's going to be your starting tailback. You've got Caleb Jackson, who's got a lot of talent, couldn't get things going on Sunday, but he's a guy that you feel like can be a real impact player for you. And then you've got Caden Durham, who's going to have to step up. His reps just increased. He's going to have to play. And I'm excited about Caden Durham. He is a legit track star. He's got unbelievable speed. He's a little undersized in the terms of his height because he's like 5'9", 5'10", but he's not undersized in terms of how stout he is. Like, he's a stocky back. He's got a low center of gravity, and he can really, really run. If you're talking about easing freshmen in, and we're going to talk about some LSU defensive backs later on in the show that may be asked to play, you're at a pretty good spot in the schedule now to start getting some people some work. Nichols is a scrimmage. This is a glorified practice with tailgating on Saturday. You can get Caden Durham 20 carries if you want. I don't think they will, but you could. And then you've got South Carolina, who I think is dreadful. I think they're one of the worst teams in the SEC. We'll get into power rankings in the second hour, but I think they're bad. Then you've got UCLA, who I don't think is any good. They didn't score a single point in the first half against Hawaii. And you've also got South Alabama coming up. Like, that's your next month. I don't think you play anybody that's any good in the next month. So you've got a chance now before the first bye, before you get into Ole Miss and you get into going to College Station and you get into Alabama and then you see Oklahoma on the schedule. Before any of that, you've got a little bit of time to get some people's feet wet. Against Lincoln Riley in Las Vegas under the lights of Allegiant Stadium, probably not the best time to toss freshmen right on in there. P.J. Woodland played, and he played his butt off, and but it's not an ideal situation to get guys' feet wet. Now you do have that opportunity. So if you want to save some tread on the tires of Josh Williams, you want to save some tread on the tires of Caleb Jackson, you want to try to get Caden Durham up to speed, you can get him as many carries as you want, especially this week and especially against South Alabama. You can't just completely throw all caution to the wind against South Carolina next week. Same thing probably goes for UCLA, although I don't think that one is quite as dangerous in Tiger Stadium. But you've got some time to get some guys up to speed. LSU's too thin at tailback. You're going to say, what about Trey Holly? I don't know about Trey Holly. Brian Kelly talked to Matt Moscona at SEC Media Days on the record about Trey Holly, and at that point, he believed that Trey Holly's court date was going to be within the next 10 days, that everything would work itself out, and that he would be back with the team for fall camp. That's what Brian Kelly told Matt on the record back in Dallas. That was in July. Obviously, we now know that the attorneys involved asked for an extension and a delay of that court date. It's coming up later in September, and maybe by late September, Trey Holly can rejoin the team. Maybe not. I don't know that you can count on that. They have tried, LSU's football program has tried to keep Trey Holly in shape and engaged the best they can. He's not at practice. He's not in the film room. He's not at meetings. He's not doing any of that. They're trying to keep him in shape so that if the opportunity presents itself and he can come back, that he is ready to do so in the best way that he can. But right now, as I sit here and we're in early September and we're one game in the rearview mirror and Trey Holly hasn't been with the team since back in the winter, I can't necessarily bank on him showing up and being an impact back for LSU. This show is now Josh Williams. It is now Caleb Jackson. It is now Caden Durham. Those are the guys. And you're going to have to find a way with 3 backs to get through this season. That is uncomfortable. I understand that 8's too many, but you probably need to have 5. And now LSU's got 3. So if Holly comes back and can give you anything in October, November, that lessens the blow a little bit. But right now, you've got those guys, and they got to get Caden Durham up to speed. And you heard me for 2 days now talk about the offensive line and tight ends. They've got to do a better job of blocking. But your depth is bordering on razor thin now at the tailback spot. So if you're just jumping in the car, what's on talking about? It's really, really rough news. John Emery Jr. reportedly suffered a torn ACL in practice yesterday, his second torn ACL in the last 11 months. Just gut-wrenching stuff for a guy who's gone through so much in his college career. To have this season cut short like that is just really, really tough. So more on that as it becomes available. We have player interviews tonight with the LSU players. Brian Kelly will meet with the press tomorrow afternoon. Then he'll have his radio show tomorrow evening. So you won't hear anything from Brian Kelly on this until tomorrow afternoon, but maybe some reaction from some of the players today as we get some player interviews just before 6 o'clock on this Wednesday. All right, we're off and running here on a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. When we come back, J.D. Pickell, host of the Hard Count on 3 Sports, talk some college football with us on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. I'll tell you about it every single day. Go to the website, OneBathAndClosets.com, and request that free consultation with David Duvall and his team. It's a painless process, and it doesn't cost you a cent to have the conversation. Here's what I'm thinking. Here's what we might want to do. Here's kind of a budget, and David Duvall and his team will get to work for you. I can promise you this. They're going to set a timeline for you. They're going to do the job right the first time and leave the competition behind. Whether it's a full bathroom renovation or remodel, a full closet renovation or remodel, or just a tub to shower conversion, something really simple. They're going to do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. If you want to see pictures of their fantastic work, you can follow them on Instagram, or you can check out the website, OneBathAndClosets.com. You'll see the testimonials there from their satisfied customers as well. David Duvall's been doing this a long time. If you're looking at your bathroom, looking at your closet, just not happy, want an upgrade there, get a custom upgrade from the folks at One Bath and Closets. Check them out online, OneBathAndClosets.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Hope you're staying dry out there in the capital city. A little afternoon shower coming through. Going to rain tomorrow as well, but it's bringing some cool weather. The high on Friday is like 79 in Baton Rouge. That's unheard of.
Great stuff
in
here.
early September. Back up to 88 for game day, but it could be worse. It could be 100 easily. So
oh yeah,
we'll take an 88 high. JD Pickell, host of the Hard Count on 3 Sports with us every single Wednesday, joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. JD, how we doing?
Man, I'm doing well. I was speaking to the producer before I jumped on here, and sounds like vibes are not immaculate after Sunday's experience. But you know what? New week, new opportunity. Pleasure to be on with y'all.
Oh, we're glad to have you. It's the same story that LSU's been dealing with for 3 years, where you lose the opener. It's a huge game, big build-up, national stage, and then you come back and there's an FCS in-state opponent that you already know when you walk in the stadium it's going to be 70-0. You can't feel great about it. It's just a wasted week. Like it's just not.
Sure.
It's not a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I mean I think the thing too is like if you told me on Friday like, hey, LSU is going to hold USC to 27. I'd be like, oh, heck yeah. Like, how much? So they probably won and covered the spread. Like, I thought Kelly did a really good job of, like, speaking to that during his post-game presser, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts, where he was just saying, like, we can't ask our defense to be something they're not right now. And I think they played really well against Lincoln Riley offense. And honestly, I felt like LSU, if you were just to, give me the first, few moments of that game, it felt like LSU was in control of that game. And it sounds like LSU maybe felt that way as well, and that's kind of why things went the way they went. But a lot of positives to take away, but it's tough to look at them right now given the context around how that game finished.
Yeah, I mean, when you look up and LSU's got the ball late, down 3 in the red zone with under 3 minutes to go, it felt like LSU had a real good chance to win the game there, to go in, score a touchdown, and win the game. When they threw incomplete passes on 2nd and 3rd down and settled for the field goal, I'm sitting in the studio waiting to do postgame, and we're all looking at each other going, this is not going to go well. And, of course, USC went right down the field. You felt pretty good that the offense could take the lead. When they didn't do that, you didn't feel very good that the defense could hold the tie, and they didn't.
Yeah, absolutely. It was one of those things where you were hoping that the Garrett Nussmeier, because I was texting a buddy too, and after getting a chance to like be around him in person, you kind of thought like this was the moment that he had been waiting for at LSU. He had built to at LSU, and then for them to not be able to finish the way they wanted to in that fourth quarter, just absolutely tragic, and you hate it for them. And it's one of those things that you look at right now and you're like, okay, they can still have a great season, but just what you spoke to in the opening here, Hunt, like it's not so much, I don't think, the concern for LSU fans of will we have a good football team. It's the concern of like, hey, why does this continue to be a pattern for us as to why we're not able to win an opener?
Would you schedule an FCS team in the opener? Would you schedule, Rice in the opener and just beat them by 60 like most other teams in the Southeastern Conference did, or do you think there's an advantage to scheduling the big game?
I honestly, in the 4-team playoff, I would have in a heartbeat told you, hey, Rice, get them on the schedule, let's run it up, let's get everybody some reps and have a good time. In this 12-team playoff, I think you look at USC beating LSU now, and we're like, hey, when it comes down to Selection Sunday, and let's say USC is a 10-2 team, and they're toting that win over a non-conference SEC opponent in LSU, like that could be the bargaining chip that gets them in the back door as an at-large bid from the Big Ten. So I think in this 12-team model with a non-conference opening week loss, meaning less than it ever has before, in that respect, I think I'm much more on board with okay, I'm all right if we schedule a big boy early on. The tough part about that is I probably feel a lot better scheduling a bigger opponent if I have confidence in a returning quarterback, and I know what I have on my roster, which is just impossible to know when they schedule them out so far in advance.
All right, let's kick around the rest of the country here, as we've got week 1 in the rearview mirror before we get to kind of a week slate here coming up in week 2. For me, it was pretty shocking to see the product that Florida put on the field on Saturday against Miami. When you watch the Gators, do you see a talent issue? Do you see a scheme issue? I mean, it's clearly not working.
I saw, and this was the one thing, Hunt, I did not expect to see. I saw an approach issue. Like it was very clear at one point in time that they had just packed it in. Like you see offensive linemen like jogging after a Miami defender on an interception. I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, why in the game of all games when you're at home, you have a perceived college football playoff contender coming to your place? Everyone's been talking mess about Billy Napier for the last 6 months. Like, if there was a game you were going to dig deep and make a statement, like that was the spot. And so to see there be no fire in the third and fourth quarter from that team, it was just like, golly, like what do we have under the hood here? That was something I did not expect to see by any stretch of the imagination. Talent-wise, it might still be a touch too early for us to know exactly what they're going to be. But at the end of the day, like Miami had Cam Ward, Florida did not to say anything of Graham Mertz, and that to me was a massive differentiating factor, obviously, along with what I just spoke to in the culture issue.
Obviously, you never want anybody to get hurt, and Graham Mertz has a concussion, has to leave the game. But I'm just kind of thinking big picture here. Is DJ Lagway like Billy Napier's only chance to save his job, or is that not even an option?
I think that's a really good question, and hopefully one that we don't have to unpack. Hopefully they can kind of get it together here. I know I guess the folks listening to this show may not be hoping that. I think they really need to show something in November. So I don't know I really quite frankly don't know if it's a DJ Lagway conversation as much as it is is this thing headed somewhere conversation. That was kind of the big thing for me going into this game is this was a chance for both Cristobal and Napier heading into year 3 to show like, hey, you've had 3 years. You say whatever you want about the situation you walked into. By the third year as the head coach, especially in the portal era, like you can sign your name next to, I believe, just about every facet of your football team. And so for DJ Lagway now, as much as there's a conversation around how good he's going to be and you want to keep it in Gainesville, and if Billy Napier's not there, that obviously creates a question mark. I think you have to do what's best for your football program. And if you believe Billy Napier's still the guy, great, let's keep rolling. But it does become a more real discussion if things continue to trend the way they did against Miami.
I realize you probably don't spend a lot of time watching tape or grinding 65, 70-point blowouts, but of the kind of that next tier of SEC teams, Ole Miss had their way with Furman, Tennessee just hammered Chattanooga, Missouri had a convincing win over Murray State. Did you learn anything about those teams as they kind of quest to try to make the playoff?
Not so much about Ole Miss and Missouri. I was really fascinated to see how Nico looked, especially with them having NC State this week. I was just impressed by how definitive he looked in that offense. And again, it's Chattanooga. I mean, they're going to have to obviously bring it against some of the better competition they're going to play outside of an NC State and the SEC. But I think what you saw from him in that game was the benefit of being able to redshirt last year. And I know Joe Milton wasn't hitting Hooker, and a lot of people wanted to go to number 8 because of the fact that the offense maybe didn't look as potent as it did in 2022. But I think him getting a chance to sit and learn and grow physically and grow within, the offense in itself. Like, I think we saw him go out there, and I mean, granted, his guys running open, but still, I mean, he was dialed in, nowhere to go with the football, didn't get greedy. Like, I think Nico Iamaleava is for real. We'll get a great gauge for his progress against NC State. But, I think that kid's the real deal, man, with how he played against Chattanooga and just being – I mean, it was like clockwork. It was really, really impressive to see.
You like him big against NC State?
I like him. I don't know if I like him to cover or not. I quite frankly wouldn't touch that game with the 10-foot pole. But I do think Tennessee wins. I do think that they're able to score a good amount of points. And I think we leave that game headed into the one against Oklahoma in Norman. And I'd be surprised if game day is not there.
Where's your confidence level in Connor Wigman down in College Station after his opener?
Yeah, it's a tricky one to dissect because I honestly came away just thinking, all right, Notre Dame is going to be an absolute wagon this year. Like seeing how good that defense played was encouraging. There has to be, it felt very Jimbo Fisher-ish, which I think is the frustrating part for the folks in College Station. I think it's still probably too early to sell any of the Connor Wegman stock just yet. The price is definitely decreasing, so if that scares you, I think it's definitely it's not unwarranted if you were to give away some of it. I just think we got to give him a little bit of time to grow in the system and get his get his feet wet, against maybe some lesser competition before we know exactly what he is. Because I look back at what he's done over the course of his college career, like we've seen him have some really solid showings. Like last year against Miami, even in a losing effort, I thought he played pretty well. So Notre Dame, I think, is just a really salty veteran outfit over there. I think it's like seven graduate students. I got Portal on the brain, clearly. 7 graduate students, and then one of the best corners in college football in Benjamin Morrison. So I probably chalk it up more to that and just a huge spot than I do Connor Wegman just not being worth his salt.
What's Clemson's record going to be at the end of the regular season?
Oh, man. I would say 9-3. I think 9-3 is a fair place to put them right now. That Florida State game looks a lot more manageable than it did a few weeks ago, huh? Like that maybe you're looking like that could be a more comfortable situation for you walking into to the Doak. But I think NC State's going to be tricky. I have a hard time believing they're not going to slip up somewhere else along the way, whether it be a Virginia Tech or whoever you want to talk about in the ACC. I think they probably still have 2 more losses left, but I'm not ready to just totally, give up on. I was impressed by how they played in that first half against Georgia. I think that said a lot about their front seven and a lot about what they're going to be defensively as a whole. So Clemson's going to have to score if they want to compete in the ACC, but I think 9-3 is probably where I would put them right now.
Texas and Michigan, probably the biggest one of this week. What's your thoughts?
I love the Michigan roster overall. I just think that if you get into a situation where you have to go score for score with Texas, I don't think they have the firepower. This one kind of feels like when you arm wrestle your buddy and it gets to a point where like one of you sort of got the jump on the other and it's just a stalemate for 5 minutes and neither one of you wants to like surrender it. I feel like whoever gets the jump on the other in this game in Ann Arbor, whether it be Michigan or whether it be Texas, I feel like they'll just be able to kind of dictate the tempo. So I like Michigan overall this year. I think Texas wins that one. And I'll take him as a little backdoor cover to get the 6.5.
He's JD Pickell, host of The Hard Count on 3. Check out the YouTube channel. Subscribe up to it for all the content. He's with us every single Wednesday here. We'll talk next week, man. Thanks.
Thanks so much. Enjoy week 2. Hey, new day, new week. Here we go. Here we go, Tigers.
We're going to get there. Thanks. It's JD Pickell here on The Hunt Palmer Show. When we come back, it is What If Wednesday right after this.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio, video, security solutions, avssla.com. All the time, we're out in the backyard because the Myers man's obsessed with hitting the baseball, and I like to play some tunes while I'm out there or a podcast while I'm out there, and we do that because Mitchell Fisher and the team at Audio, Video, Security Solutions came and wired the back porch there with some awesome speakers. So I can have my phone out with the touch of a button right there on the phone. We can have anything that I want playing while Myers runs around like a lunatic in the backyard. Also, when we're cooking, like to play some tunes as well. In the event that one person's in the kitchen cooking, somebody's out back, we can split the sound right there. It's all run through the app on our phone. It sounds great. It's so easy to use, and we love it. Use it every single day at the Palmer House. If that's something you're interested in, Audio, Video, Security Solutions is happy to help you out with that. They can do whole home audio. They can do surround sound in your entertainment area. Whatever it is that you want, they can do for you, and the customer service is fantastic after the installation is done. Mitchell Fisher's cell phone, he's the owner of the company. Here's his cell phone. It's 225-439-7920, 225-439-7920. It's Audio, Video, Security Solutions. Check them out online, avssla.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Got a lot to get to here until 3 o'clock. Got my predictions for the Saints season coming up in hour number 2. Also got SEC power rankings coming up in hour number 2. I also want to talk some LSU football in hour number 2, some big picture stuff. I think now there's enough time has passed that we're not all just completely hopped up on adrenaline after the loss and just firing off takes. I just kind of want to take a deep breath. No, we're not going to preview Nichols today. I just have some thoughts on LSU's football team now that the emotion of the loss has kind of settled just a little bit. I'll talk about that at 2 o'clock. I might play some White Sox sound in the next segment, quite frankly. But for this segment, we're going to play some What If Wednesday.
Time, space, reality. It's more than a linear path. Where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities. Follow me and ponder the question, what if?
All right, first one here. We got these from Twitter. What if the offensive game plan didn't go into a shell Sunday night? Was such a disappointment playing not to lose? Exclamation point.
That's been a very common theme with LSU fans, that the offensive game plan went into a shell. They didn't stretch the field. They were too vanilla in the second half. I'll be kind of frank, I don't think that's the case. So the issue that people have is you had a touchdown drive in the third quarter. You went down and got a score to Aaron Anderson. And your next 2 drives you punted. Because the only drive after that was the field goal that tied the game, where you did drive the ball down the field. You went 61 yards, but you didn't finish in the red zone. You had 2 drives that went 5 plays for 23 yards and a punt, and then 3 plays for -7 yards and a punt. So what happened, you didn't go into a shell. On one of them, you had a 3rd and 1. And you didn't get it. That's not really going into a shell. You created a 3rd and 1. I'm not trying to chuck it deep on 3rd and 1. And on the other one, you just threw a couple of incomplete passes. I don't know that I believe that they went into a shell. They did move the ball on two scoring drives in the second half, and then they had one where they didn't get a 3rd and 1. That's just not executing in short yardage there. So was it a perfect game plan offensively? No, they scored 20 points. It wasn't perfect. Am I more concerned with the red zone functionality than the actual play calling? You, as Brian Kelly said, you had 3 shots inside the 15-yard line and you came away with 6 points. That's not good enough.
Yeah, and this next one I think kind of falls into that. It says, what if we had any play ready that works inside the 10? I think they did have plays that work inside the 10. They just didn't execute them.
Yeah, Gary Nussmeier's got Aaron Anderson running by himself. Just throw it to him, and he missed it. That would be great if they could do that. They tried to throw the fade to Kyron Lacy. They had a procedure penalty that would have taken it away anyway, but they tried to get the ball to Lacy. They had one time down there on the 4th down, obviously they went for that they didn't slide and protect correctly, and the play got blown up from the start. So they just didn't do enough. They were probably 2 or 3 plays short of winning the game, and it just didn't happen.
And next one here, this one's interesting. What if Baton Rouge designed a loop around the city, as many other large cities have as well, and didn't have the interstate run through the middle of the city?
Yeah, that's the problem. I'm not exactly an urban planner.
Yeah.
But you got an interstate that just tens of thousands of people use daily to pass through the entire state, and you've also got a city that uses it to get to school and work. So it just gets a little crowded.
Yeah, it does.
I'm never really on I-10. I spend a lot of time on Nicholson going to and from my house.
That's not too bad.
Which is generally okay. I actually sometimes, I don't know if I'm giving away secrets here, but I'll use River Road a good bit, and it's more miles.
It is,
but I never hit my brakes. I'll get and I'll just go down River and just go, and it's quite nice. It's a nice commute in the morning.
You got the traffic hacks, huh? That's like the people in LA that always say they have these secret routes you can take to avoid traffic.
Oh man, we we went to the Dodgers game last spring, and Alyssa's good friend lives out there, and she worked with someone who was like 30-year usher at Dodger Stadium, and she had this like back route, and like I saw on the interstate where it was like backed up big time. It was Cubs Dodgers. It was a full house, and we were just weaving through these like little neighborhoods and we got in there. It was a thing of beauty.
Hunt, you still haven't watched Curb Your Enthusiasm yet, and of course there is an episode about that where Larry has these different routes that he has for getting through traffic, and he tells somebody and tells them not to tell anyone, but of course they do, and he gets very upset because his route is now being polluted with all these other people taking his route. So
he's a beauty.
He is. All right, moving on. What if, okay, this is seems a little bit absurd, but what if we used Harold Perkins as a fullback?
This is why we do What If Wednesday. That's quality stuff. He's got a touchdown run in the ReliaQuest Bowl.
Yeah.
I was listening to Hester this morning, and he was saying after watching the tape that like the tight ends just did not do a very good job, and you don't have a fullback, so you're counting on those tight ends to seal. And it was obvious to everyone that Pimpton missed that block on the 3rd and 1. He let the guy come right and crash right underneath him. But I don't know that Perkins is going to get much run at fullback.
Yeah.
I will continue to put this into the universe. I'm hoping that we see it. I want Perkins to intercept a football in the middle of the field in a game this year, because I want to see him running in the open field. That's something that we haven't necessarily seen. He did have the one pick against Auburn a couple of years ago, but he didn't get up to full speed out into the middle of the field. It was actually the former LSU Coy Moore threw that ball.
Wow. And
that's Perkins intercepted it.
Coy Moore.
I want to see him in the open field with the football. He was incredible with it in high school, and I want to see that here.
Well, unfortunately, with the running back depth being depleted now, with John Emery being out, I was going to say Caleb Jackson he looks pretty stout. I think maybe
he could plenty stout.
I think maybe you could maybe put him in at fullback there. He's like 235, I think, like 5'8". He could handle that, I think. But Harold Perkins probably not the biggest, probably not big enough to do fullback there. But moving on, what if we would have had one of the batted balls or recovered one of the fumbles?
That's a great what if. That is one. It's unanswerable, but it feels like those were game changers. I mean, the one that Weeks almost intercepted was a 4th down. So LSU did get the ball. You're talking about a difference of 15 yards or so if he does catch that. Thankfully, he didn't catch it and then fumble it right back to him. That was a concern right when it hit the ground, because USC did get on that football. But those turnovers can be such game-changing plays. They can ignite a crowd. They can ignite a bench. They can deflate the other team. There's a sudden change there that's just a big deal in games. And LSU created those opportunities and didn't cash in on them. And that's one that I think Blake Baker will probably be bummed out about, because defensive coaches are just obsessed with turnovers. They absolutely love turnovers. And LSU looked like they had an opportunity to grab a couple, and they just couldn't get their hands on it full time. And that's just that's a bummer. It is a great what if, because we'll never know, but it feels like LSU had a real good chance to win that game if just one of those balls bounces the other way to them, but it just did not happen. So,
we got some in the chat here as well. What if the White Sox never win again?
They'll be the worst team in history, and that's probably going to happen anyway.
Probably so. What if you answered one of Condon's what ifs?
I did one time. I gave him an opportunity to give him what if, and he gave up some ridiculous thing about some team from the 60s that won 2 games or something. It was just it was a horrible effort by Rich.
Yeah.
And, I'm happy if he wants to bring some content our way. Obviously, he's not necessarily as satisfied with some of the things that we're putting out there every day. I'm all ears from a radio vet, legend in the business. If he wants to give me quality content, I'm here for it. But he did get one try, and he did an atrocious job with it. So that's really all you can say about that.
Next one here. What if Hunt was LSU's DH?
That's interesting. Okay, so give me a full season. That's 56 games, and we'll say I average 3 at-bats a game. So 56, I can't do math at all, so we'll do 56 times 3. That's 168 ABs. I think I would get 5 hits.
5?
I think I would get 5 hits.
I think that's plausible, considering you got the early part of the season where you're playing against the lower level competition, where you're going to have guys throwing 60-mile-an-hour curveballs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to have to make hay in a couple of those SWAC midweek games where you got guys that are really throwing in the low 80s.
Yep.
Like that, I could theoretically barrel up at some point. but I don't get very many of those. And then we're going to get to SEC games.
And then you're just...
And those Friday night guys, I got no chance of ever making contact. This is 18 years ago, which is a sad state. 18 years ago, I faced a guy who had velocity that at that point was fairly similar to SEC pitching. And he was probably throwing in the very low 90s, 90, 91, 92. But I got up there and I realized, like, watching from the on-deck circle, I was like, I'm not good enough to react to the pitch and try to read it and swing it. So I'm going to just eliminate the breaking ball from my mind, and everything's a fastball, and I'm going to treat every pitch like a fastball. And he threw a first pitch fastball, and I fouled it straight back, and then he threw 2 sliders, and I sat down. And that was the end of that at bat. And that's probably what it would be like for almost every at bat in SEC play. But I think with some early season games, some midweeks, and then just the luck of my bat running into the ball, because they do have to throw it over the plate theoretically. The luck of my bat running into one, I think I could get 4 or 5 hits.
All right, last one here. What if Les Miles coached the game on Sunday?
We wouldn't have thrown it that many times.
Nope.
I can promise you that. And so you would have leaned on that running game and tight ends blocking, which they apparently did a terrible job with. So I think you can knock us down to 13 points or so. I think LSU probably scores 13.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think that roster was tailored to how Les Miles liked to run his teams.
Don't have a fullback. You don't have tight ends that can block very well.
Nope. Offensive line could not run block, apparently.
Yeah, so it would have been a tough scene if Les was piloting the ship there. That won't be the case. But we'll see what they can come up with coming up here on Saturday. That's it for What If Wednesday here. Appreciate y'all on Twitter and in the chat for firing those away. Always help us out with a little bit of content there. Still got some thoughts on LSU football. I want to get to at 2 o'clock. Saints record prediction at 2:15. SEC football power rankings. How far did the Tigers dip, if any, from the opening weekend? So we'll talk about all that. Coming up in hour number 2, got to close out hour number 1 first on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Make LeBear's Baton Rouge your game day headquarters this season. They got the biggest screens around, and now you can bet and dine at ESPN Bet in person. We were there last Thursday. We'll be there again this Thursday. The NFL season opens. They're doing the ribbon cutting at ESPN Bet there in LeBear's. Come on out, 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. It's going to be a heck of a good time. We're very much looking forward to being out there. I'm also looking forward to the football season with the Cover 5 SEC contest. You get into the app, you download the Pin Play app, you get your number, you download the Cover 5 app. It's really fun. I'll just give you round numbers. If a team's a 3-point favorite and you take them to cover and they win by 10, you get 7 points, the difference between the spread and the win. If they're a 10-point favorite and you pick them to win and they only win by 4, you lose 6 points, and you can pick 5 games every week, and you can compete with me and a bunch of other people here in Baton Rouge. It's a lot of fun. So download the ESPN Bet app and download the Cover 5 app today, and you can compete with me. I had a decent week in week number 1. If you're not a member, get the Pin Play app today. LeBear's Baton Rouge, your live sports headquarters. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-589-9966 for help.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
All right, closing up hour number 1 here on a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We are going to talk in earnest about LSU's football team moving forward here in 12 minutes. I could start breaking down the Nichols passing attack right now if you really wanted me to, but
Southland champions, Hunt.
I don't think that's what I'm going to do here. We've got 6 minutes to go in the hour, and I realize the Chicago White Sox are not top of mind for everyone here, but we did have a little bit of fun at their expense on yesterday's show, talking about Chris Flexen having lost 20 straight starts. Just remarkable ineptitude by the Chicago White Sox. And after we got off the air and did that, the White Sox went out and played another baseball game yesterday. And you'll never guess, but they did lose again. They're 31 and 109. You'll hear a familiar voice as we play this sound. Ben McDonald's on the color for the Orioles broadcast. And what we're going to play for you here is a play from the bottom of the second inning with the White Sox. They were already trailing 4-0 in the bottom of the second inning, and the bases were loaded for the Orioles. 2 outs. High pop-up into shallow left field. And I'll spoil it a little bit, but you'll want to hear the audio. The shortstop, third baseman, and right fielder all converge on the ball, and the outfielder and the third baseman just collide into each other violently. And the ball drops, and all 3 runs score. And this is what it sounded like as the Oriole broadcasting team couldn't help but throw a punch at the hapless White Sox.
Time. Yeah, and the truth is, if you have great stuff, you can challenge over the white part of the plate a little bit more and let your stuff just play. If you don't, you better figure out.
Oh, no! Oh, my goodness. The White Sox have just gone full White Sox. And Eloy Jimenez pop-up ends in a collision. Miguel Vargas is down with his face in his glove. 3 runs have scored.
Time.
You can tell how casual the pop-up is because Ben doesn't even stop to let the play-by-play man go because the television broadcast and the ball's going to get caught, so Ben's just going to finish his story as the guy comes in, and so he's talking, and all of a sudden you hear the play-by-play guy go, "Oh, no!" It's really, really difficult for me to fathom a major league ball club being this bad. I would fully expect that exact pop-up to be caught by Bruley High School's varsity team.
Probably.
It's just a fly ball into the outfield. Nobody was running fast. There was no wall in play. They just couldn't communicate to the point of catching. It's mind-boggling how bad they are.
It is. And after the play happened, Ben McDonald mentioned, he's like, Benintendi he's that left fielder there. He's got to call those guys off. It's his play to make, and for some reason, nobody decides to say anything. And we have the White Sox doing probably maybe the worst play that they've had so far. But I mean, they've had a lot, but that one was probably takes the cake, I would guess.
I mean, it's the quote on the broadcast was, "The White Sox have gone full White Sox." That's how bad they are. You're now just making them a caricature of themselves by analyzing the game like that. That play could have happened to, a first place team. The Brewers could have made that play, and you wouldn't go, "The Brewers have gone full White Sox." But I guess you could, because you just expect ineptitude at this point. They've now lost 12 in a row in this streak. It's their third 12-plus game losing streak of the year. They're going to set the mark for the worst record in Major League Baseball history. And now they've got the broadcast teams from the other squads making fun of them on the air. And it was 7-0 in the second inning at that point.
Yeah, that's a
what do you
tough
think
scene.
those guys think when they come to the ballpark?
I don't know. I mean, you've mentioned this plenty of times about Jeremy Hill saying that they thought they were going to win the Super Bowl even they were bad.
Well,
but
at this point,
it's already
the proof is very much in the pudding.
We've gotten to the point where it seems it's just that there's no way that these guys are going out there.
Job security at the major league level. Man. Somebody's going to look at you, but what a miserable existence. I mean, they went 0-10 on their last homestand.
Yeah, they're
How can you go 0-10 on a homestand?
I think they're 5-45 in their last 50. Is what I think I saw.
That's just not good.
Yeah, it's tough.
Maybe
man.
they'll get Flexen's next start. Maybe the next time they'll trot him out there.
Gotta break the streak.
It's tough to lose 21 straight starts.
It is. It's tough to lose 20 though as well.
Well, look,
so.
not for Flexen. He made it happen with relative ease. So there's your White Sox minute here on this Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. If you missed any of the first hour, you can always catch it on demand. 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab. All of our shows are archived there each and every day in their entirety. Got OTB, Live at Lunch, Hunt Palmer Show, as well as After Further Review. Wherever you find your sound, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you find your sound, you can always find us. YouTube is also a great resource for us as well. Entire shows are archived there each and every day. Plus, if you're looking for team-specific stuff, we've got that covered as well. Hunt on LSU for your LSU content. Hunt on Saints for your Saints content. Today, opened the show with some really, really disappointing news. John Emery Jr., sixth-year senior at LSU, is out for the year, reportedly. Wilson Alexander of The Advocate saying he's tore his ACL in practice yesterday. So that's really, really disappointing. Talked about what that means for him, what that means for LSU's running back crew the rest of the season. J.D. Pickell hosted the Hard Count on 3, was with us talking national college football. We started with a little bit of LSU, but we got into the Florida Gators. We got into Notre Dame and Texas A&M as well, and then talked about Michigan and Texas coming up this weekend. So What If Wednesday. A lot of interesting what ifs, and a lot of them kind of what-ifing the game back on Sunday. What if LSU could have done this or that to win it? I kind of gave my candid thoughts on that. I didn't think the offense just went into a total shell in Sunday's game, but I think a lot of people do. We'll see if they can shake out of that here moving forward. And then a little White Sox talk to finish off the hour as you had hoped. All right, lots and lots to do in hour number 2. Saints record prediction, start to finish. It actually went a little better than I thought it would, quite frankly. I just did it individually and then went back and tallied them all. I didn't come up with a record and then try to make that happen. So we'll see about that at 2:15. Got SEC football power rankings coming up at 2:30. But we'll start off hour number 2 with just kind of a reset on where this LSU football team is. Sunday was really, really disappointing. But what do I think about the team now that we've seen them in action for 4 quarters? We'll get into that to start off hour number 2. We'll pause for SportsCenter. Come back with us on a rainy Wednesday here in the capital city. It is the Hunt Palmer Show.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has back-to-school savings like $16,000 off 25 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $16,000 off. All new Bayou vehicles come with a complimentary extended warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Christine Lisi. Positive sign for the Bengals today. Receiver Jamar Chase participated in individual drills in the first official practice of game week ahead of Sunday's opener against the Patriots. He was a hold-in during training camp amid a contract stalemate. Bills safety Damar Hamlin will start in the opener against Arizona, his first start since going into cardiac arrest during a game in January 2023. Denver named quarterback Bo Nix a team captain, first Broncos rookie captain since 1967. He fits in well with the offense coach Sean Payton wants to run in Denver, notes former Saints quarterback Drew Brees.
I think here's a guy who started 60 games in college, has a wealth of experience. I think I know just from knowing Sean, I think he loves his ability to process the game, the way that he's picked up this offense, his ability to find completions, and just manage that offense the way that Sean wants it to be managed.
Drew Brees on Carlin versus Joe. Brazil says security's been tightened ahead of the first NFL game in South America after players voiced concerns about safety. The Eagles and Packers play in Brazil on Friday.
Why pay more for a great shave? Choose Barbasol, America's #1 brand of shaving cream. Barbasol's thick and rich lather gives you a close, comfortable shave for just half the price of gels. Barbasol.
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2, Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Half the work week in the rear view mirror, working towards the weekend. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. My Saints record prediction coming up in 15 minutes. Every single game, I'll tell you who I like and why. And then we'll get into some SEC football power rankings a little bit later. Look, I understand that Sunday was massively disappointing for the LSU football program, the players, the coaches, certainly the fan base as well. All of us that flew halfway across the country to watch it. Just tough. I think there was a lot of optimism coming into that game. A lot of reason to believe that LSU would have a real good chance to win that game, and they did have a real good chance to win that game. You're talking about a team that had the football down 3 points inside the red zone with under 3 minutes to go in the game. That's a real chance to win that game. And when it doesn't go your way and you have to settle for a field goal and then you let USC come right down the field and win it, I understand the visceral reaction to that. I understand the massive disappointment. I understand the disappointment in Brian Kelly in losing 3 straight openers. I understand the disappointment in Joe Sloan because they only scored 20 points. I understand all those reactions in the moment because it's a very emotional thing, especially when you add a few dozen drinks to the mix, as I'm sure many did on Sunday. But that emotional deal is kind of subsided. We're into Wednesday now, and not that you've got another opponent to look forward to on Saturday, because no one can name a single player probably that's ever played for Nichols in the history of their program. So that doesn't distract you from that, but you have kind of moved on from it emotionally. And I've got a take here. I don't know how hot it is, and I feel like there's a sizable portion of the listenership that's not going to agree, but I do have a take. I think LSU's got a pretty good team. I still do. I realize we live in a zero-sum game here. You either win the game or you lose the game, and that's it. But I watched an LSU defense that was improved on Sunday. They were contesting balls in the secondary. Savion Jones played better in that game than he has played at any point in his LSU career. USC didn't run the ball super effectively against LSU. Yeah, they busted through at the end and had a rushing touchdown there, but it wasn't like they owned LSU on the ground. Far from it. Thought LSU did a good job at the point of attack. I think LSU's offensive line is exceptional in pass protection, and I think Garrett Nussmeier was really, really good. I went into his day yesterday and I dissected where he threw the ball in relation to the line of scrimmage and his completion percentage, and looked at what was the cause of the incompletions. He only really got happy feet twice, and he only misfired on committed throws twice. Now, one of them was a massive one, but the vast majority of his passing snaps were well executed. I think LSU's got good wide receivers. I think LSU has enough talent at running back. They've just got to block it a little bit better. But I look at this LSU team, and there is not one game on this schedule, not one, that I look at and go, that's big, big trouble. Like, I think Ole Miss is better than LSU. I think that's a bad matchup for LSU in Tiger Stadium. Do I think they can beat Ole Miss? Yeah. I think Bama's good. Milrow's a problem. But I think LSU's going to be better in November than they are right now. Brian Kelly's teams have been that for 2 straight years. Oklahoma looks good. We'll talk about power rankings coming up, and that was a nice opening win for them, but it was against nobody, so how much do you really know? A&M, I thought that'd be a really tough game in Kyle Field, and it still will be probably, but they looked bad on Saturday. I think LSU's got a good team. I don't think LSU's going to win the national championship. I don't think LSU's going to win the SEC. And right now, it's difficult to forecast LSU making the playoffs. I readily admit all that, and I understand that people expect that, especially in year 3, and that is a good thing. I want you to expect that. So because of all that, the loss on Sunday is bitterly disappointing. But it's not like they went out there and Nussmeier threw 4 picks and they don't have a backup quarterback and they still can't cover anybody and the run defense was awful again. And it's not like everything went wrong. A lot went right on Saturday. And so I understand in this sport especially, when wins and losses are so vital in every single game, it's not quite like that in baseball or basketball, but it is in football, and I talk about that all the time. The reaction tends to be, okay, we won. Hell yeah, we're going to win everything. Okay, we lost. We suck. Fire this coach. What's the buyout? I got 2 of those texts on Sunday. But I'm going to allow myself to back up and go, okay, they lost. That's massively disappointing, and it is a huge deal for this football season. No question about that. But if I remove myself from that and I go, okay, what do I actually think about the way that they played? I thought they played pretty good. I can tell you, I thought they played pretty good and they lost. Those 2 things can happen. They're not mutually exclusive. And I look at this, as we talked about on Monday, and I think I mentioned yesterday as well, and I certainly, when we were talking about John Emery and maybe getting Caden Durham involved a little bit, understand that the next month of LSU's schedule is get right time. Don't stub your toe against a bad South Carolina team. Don't stub your toe at home against a bad UCLA team. You've got 2 non-conference games against lower-level teams in Nichols and South Alabama, and then you've got to bye. If you can figure some things out over the next month and clean some things up, all of a sudden, that Ole Miss game takes on an entirely different feel than what we're feeling right now. I just wanted to take some time to say that, because I feel like it's too common and too easy for us to have watched that game and then look up and go, okay, they lost. They still didn't get enough stops on defense. The new offensive coordinator only scored 20 points. The new quarterback missed a crucial throw. They didn't run the ball the well they wanted to. This team was not prepared to play. The coach didn't have them prepared to play. It's the third year in a row. They didn't do enough to win the game. The national championship's off the table. Getting into the playoffs is almost off the table. They're not going to be good enough to win all these games. Like, that's just the way that fans naturally shift. I would imagine if you're listening to me talk right now and you are a big LSU fan, at some point in the last 2-3 days, you have felt the way I just laid out. You're disappointed with Brian Kelly. You're disenchanted with the direction of the program. You're heartbroken about the start of the season. You think that a lot of the goals are basically off the table because the margin for error is too thin. And all those things are reasonable to experience in the emotion of a big-time football game. But I still feel like LSU is moving in the right direction. I think offensively they're going to be good again, if a little bit more finesse than I'd like. And I think the defense is going to get better. I think there's going to be a little bit of a youth movement in the secondary. Brian Kelly talked about today on the SC teleconference. He talked about Jordan Gilbert's got a bone bruise, plus he's got to miss the first half. Talked about Jordan Allen's got a little bit of a turf toe situation. You could see Kylan Jackson and Deshaun Spears play a good bit on Saturday against Nichols. You're going to see P.J. Woodland play a good bit in this game against Nichols. And maybe these younger guys have a little bit higher ceiling. Maybe these younger guys are going to grow up in front of our eyes over the next month and change. And maybe they start this transformation of the worst defense in school history to something that's better and more representative of what LSU expects to be on defense. Maybe not, but I was so sick of last year watching opposing wide receivers running completely unchecked and uncovered, I could spit. And I didn't see almost any of that on Sunday. I saw USC guys going up making one-handed catches. I saw Miller Moss dropping dimes in places. I saw LSU DBs in position and knocking the ball away. I saw some pressure packages that got home. Savion Jones on a 4th down, Harold Perkins on a 3rd down. I saw some good things. And they're not going to go put the win on the board on Sunday. But I can still recognize them. So we'll go out there on Saturday and watch LSU win by 65, and that's not going to matter to anybody. And then you go open SEC play. And I do feel like things start to feel a little bit differently if they beat Nichols, when they beat Nichols, and then you go to Columbia, South Carolina, and you hold them to 17 points because Lenora Sellers is not very good, and you beat them 38-17, you start to maybe create a little bit of positive momentum. I'm just allowing for the opportunity. If you think that I'm just a blind homer, which it's funny because I got called a massive pessimist on the internet a few times last week talking about LSU, think I'm a blind homer now? Well, that's fine. I'm just calling it like I see it. I saw a secondary early in camp that I didn't like. I saw a secondary on Sunday that I thought was getting better. And some of those young players are going to play more, and I think they're going to improve. Sucks to lose the opener. I wish they would have beat some FCS team by 60 on Saturday with everybody else. But here's the situation that you got, so let's see if it gets a little bit better. All right, when we come back, I'm going to pick the Saints record start to finish. What do I have them? What does that mean for the black and gold? And will it trigger a coaching firing or will it win the division? We'll talk about all that when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Evolve Physical Therapy, EvolvePT.com. Robbie Bolton's been doing this 20 years, y'all. If you've had a bad physical therapy experience where you were sent somewhere, you walked in, they handed you a list of exercises, said, go handle those, I'll be back in 30 minutes, and okay, great, come back next week. That's not rehabilitation. Rehabilitation is hands-on. It's experts, it's physical therapists, making sure that things are going right, things are progressing, so that you, the active person, can get rid of that pain, that discomfort, and get back to being your active self. If you've had one of those poor physical therapy experiences, go to Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. Go see Robbie Bolton and his team. From the second you walk in that door, there will be somebody with you all the way through. They're going to make sure you get back to being your active self. I tell you every day. Doesn't matter if you're a youth athlete, somebody in your 60s or 70s trying to get back on the golf course. If you're dealing with pain, dealing with discomfort, whether you've been injured or in a car accident or slept wrong, Evolve Physical Therapy can help you get back to being your active self. They're on Starring near Highland Road. It's EvolvePT.com. EvolvePT.com.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
BRAC teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. BRAC, your #1 park system in the nation.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our #1 product.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
All right, I sat down at my desk today and I said, okay, I'm not going to use any preconceived notions. I'm going to actually just go through this game by game and see what I think the Saints record's going to be. I think everyone who is listening has heard me talk about the Saints since January, and it has not been in glowing terms. I thought that Fuanga was a really good draft pick when they made it. I thought the Chase Young deal was an awesome signing. I thought the Willie Gay deal was a good signing as well. And they've done some things in the offseason that I have approved of. But in general, when I think about Dennis Allen, who I don't think is a great coach, and think about Derek Carr, I don't think is a great quarterback. When I think about the offensive line as a whole that I think is not very good, I don't have high hopes for the Saints entering this season. I think that's been apparent to anyone who's listened at all. But I was a little surprised at how this went when I started going game by game. I'm not a Saints homer because I don't honestly care that much if they win or lose. I would prefer they win. It's better for our content. It's better for the state of Louisiana. It's better for my friends, and my wife likes the Saints, and I would prefer it, but I don't lose any sleep when they don't get it done. So it's not a blind homer deal. It's just kind of the way that I felt as I was going through game by game. So I'll slowly go through and show you how I arrived at this final record. They open with Carolina at home, and they're going to win that game. The Panthers are really bad. They've been bad for years. I don't have any confidence Bryce Young's going to get it done, so I got the Saints starting 1-0. They go to Dallas in week 2. I think the Cowboys are going to be really good this year. I think they might win the NFC East, so I have the Saints losing that one to go to 1-1. Philly comes to the Dome in week 3, and I think most people would write an L right next to that. But wait a second. The bottom fell out of Philadelphia last year. They were terrible at the end of the season. Tampa had no problem with them in the playoffs. They lose their all-pro center, Kelsey. And, are we sure they're the really, really good team they were 2 years ago? Or are they maybe closer to what they were at the end of last year? I don't know, but they're coming to the Dome. I'll take the Saints to win that game to go to 2-1. Then they go to Atlanta. I've got them losing that game, so that's 2-2. Then they're at Kansas City on Monday Night Football. That's a loss, so they're 2-3. Come home for Tampa. Are we all just going to bow at Baker Mayfield's feet and just assume he's going to play great football? I'm not ready to do that. It's at home, in the Dome. I'll take the Saints to beat Tampa and to go to 3-3. Then you welcome in Denver on a short week. Denver's got to travel in the short week for Thursday Night Football. Bo Nix, I like the Saints defense against Bo Nix, quite frankly. So give me the Saints D to do enough to beat Sean Payton in that homecoming. The Saints go to 4-3 at that point. You're at the Chargers. I've got that as a loss. Then you go to the Panthers. I'm going to give you a win at the Panthers. So that brings you to 5-4 at this point, and you've played 9 games. So that would be a pretty encouraging start because we understand that the beginning of the Saints' schedule is very, very difficult. But it does soften up a little bit in the middle. Unfortunately, that's not quite here yet. I've got Atlanta coming to the Dome and beating the Saints. I think the Falcons are going to be pretty good. I think Cousins is pretty good. So I'll take the Falcons to drop the Saints to 5-4. Then you play the Browns in the Dome. I think that matchup is terrible for the Saints. Myles Garrett, that Browns front, that defense against this Saints offense, I don't like the Saints odds at all there. So unfortunately, you lose 3 of 4 entering the bye week to go to the bye at 5-6 overall. You got now at this point 5 games left, and it's manageable. I've got the Saints beating the Rams off a bye at home to go to 6-6. Then you go to the Giants. I've got you winning that one to go 7-6. Then Jaden Daniels and the Commanders come to New Orleans. I think the Saints can win that game against a rookie quarterback, although that has been a bit of a bugaboo for Dennis Allen, and the mobile quarterbacks have been as well. But give me the Saints to beat Washington to go to 8-6. You're at Green Bay in December. No thank you. That does not sound fun at all. I've got that going to 8-7. The Raiders are going to be terrible this year. They come to the Dome. That is 9-7. That's a win for the Saints. And then you go to Tampa and lose. That is 9-8 on the season. I thought for sure when I embarked on this exercise that I would have the Saints somewhere around 5-12. Like that's what I kind of thought they would be in my head before I started going game by game. And I don't think the wins I have are just absolutely ludicrous. Yeah, you could say that the Saints are not going to be favored to beat Philadelphia at home. And I would say that's fine, and they may lose that game. I got you, but I have it as a win. I think they're going to beat Carolina in the opener. I think they can beat Tampa at home. I think they can beat Denver at home. I think they can beat the Panthers on the road. I think they can beat the Rams at home. I think they can go to New York and beat the Giants. I think they can beat a rookie quarterback in the Commanders. I think they can beat the Raiders. I mean, who are these quarterbacks we're talking about them beating? I've got Gardner Minshew. I've got Jaden Daniels. I've got Daniel Jones, Stafford, Bryce Young, Bo Nix, Baker Mayfield, and then Jalen Hurts. Like, that's not exactly a Hall of Fame-worthy crew here. I realized that we saw some of this last year, and the Saints weren't always dominant against some of the lesser quarterbacks, but they did win some of those games against Tommy DeVito and Tyson Bagent and some of those guys, and maybe you get lucky and get a couple of those here as well. I'm not going crazy. They're not beating Dallas. They're not beating Mahomes. They're not going to the Chargers and winning. I don't have them blocking the Browns and winning that game. I don't think they're going to go beat Jordan Love in Green Bay. But I think there are more wins on this schedule than I had originally thought. I don't know if 9-8 is good enough to win the division or not. I kind of think the Falcons are going to be good, but they are the Falcons. Like, they can screw things up pretty quickly and have in the past. So I'm a little shook by the fact that I got to 9 wins, and I'm probably going to look like an idiot by the time January rolls around. But it's just one of those deals where you do the exercise and you see what the result is. And in this case, the result was an over 500 season. If Dennis Allen does that, he's going to keep his job. I definitely would not have bet that I was going to land on that when we got into training camp. But here we are. It all starts on Sunday with Carolina. We'll talk to a Carolina Panthers beat writer tomorrow, and then we'll pick the game coming up on Friday at the end of the show. Just a news flash, I will be picking the Saints to beat the Carolina Panthers in the Superdome in the opener. If they don't, I'm going to revise this 9-8 to about 4-13. So we'll see how that goes. That's a look through the Saints schedule. If you're looking for Saints content, you can find it on YouTube at Hunt on Saints. I guess, Beck, I'll get your thoughts on that. Is 9-8 just an absolutely ludicrous prediction from me?
No, I don't think it is ludicrous. I think I would probably lean towards 8-9 or 7-10, but it's not out of the realm of possibilities. I mean, if this offense can improve with Clint Kubiak calling the shots, and Alvin Kamara can play. He doesn't have to play like he did 5 years ago.
It comes down to the line. It's got to come down to the offense.
Yeah, it's about Trevor Penning. Trevor Penning, I don't see how he is starting after the first few games, but either way, if he can't go and Ole Udoh comes in and maybe he can be marginally better than Penning, but either way, if the offensive line cannot protect Derek Carr, he can't move. So if they can't protect him, then their offense is in a lot of trouble, and the defense is going to have to carry them.
We'll see. We'll start with Carolina on Sunday. All right, when we come back, SEC football power rankings on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group right here in Baton Rouge. Jonathan Carbo's team is really fantastic. I know that insurance is no fun, but the time to think about insurance is not after the issue, not after the storm, not after the cyber breach, not after the lawsuit, not after the car accident. The time to think about insurance is right now. And if you're just one of those business owners who gets the renewal week out and checks the boxes, signs it, and then says, where do you send the check? That's one way to do it, but I don't know that it's the best way to do it to protect your business. Jonathan Carbo and his team think of themselves as kind of a consultant for you on the insurance side. They represent you in the marketplace. They've got plenty of markets that can handle all of the different lines of coverage that you need as a business owner. If you don't know what those are, if you don't know what D&O coverage is, you don't know what cyber coverage is, you don't know what EPL coverage is, that's what your broker's for. And Jonathan Carver and his team are experts over at the Highland Insurance Group. They can handle your group and employee benefits. They can handle your property and casualty. They'll be a trusted member of your team. If you're a business owner, operate that business. Let the folks at Highland Insurance Group handle the insurance side of things so that you are protected in the event of a disaster. It's Jonathan Carver and the team at the Highland Insurance Group. You can find them online at highlandig.com. That's highlandig.com.
It's an everyday thing here. We work horses in the mornings and we work on the property during the day, and without these John Deere tractors, it'd almost be impossible to keep up with the place. I've dealt with some of the other colors and stuff, and I never really got the response back that I get from John Deere, We really enjoy dealing with Sunshine. They're good people. They always check on us and make sure our equipment's running, and we love them. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
All right. It's that time of the week. Got one SEC Power Rankings already banked. Did it preseason. We're going to revisit that coming up in December when the dust is settled. But we've now got 1 week of games in the rearview mirror. And I've got a new set of power rankings here. Beck has already looked at them and expressed his displeasure.
You got problems, huh?
We have no problems. It's a perfect ranking. There's not a lot of massive sweeping movement here, but there is a little bit of movements, and so we'll get into it. Let's do some SEC football power rankings.
Hunt's SEC Power Rankings.
All right, we start at the top. That is
the Georgia Bulldogs.
That's a little suspense there, but it shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
Clemson ran the ball 23 times for 46 yards on Georgia, and that's a Clemson offensive line that has 4 starters back. Their long run of the day was 9 yards. Look, Carson Beck was really efficient, 23 of 33, 278 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. They're just really, really, really good. They were number 1 last week. They are number 1 this week. Number 2.
The Texas Longhorns.
The Texas Longhorns, 52-0 over Colorado State. They outgained the Rams 545 to 192. A lot of talent on that team. Looked good on offense, looked good on defense. They were number 2 last week. They're number 2 this week. No reason to move them. On to number 3.
The Alabama Crimson Tide.
They looked good. 63-0 was the final over Western Kentucky. 3 of Jalen Milroe's 7 completions were touchdowns. He's probably going to have to complete more than 7 balls moving forward in some of the more important games that they play on their schedule. But they're going to run the ball a lot. That's kind of my read on Alabama, and Milroe is going to be a big piece of that. I can't really read much in the game plan against Western Kentucky as to how Kalen DeBoer is going to use him. But they were good on Saturday. They stay at number 3. Number 4.
The Tennessee Volunteers.
I'm still drinking the orange Kool-Aid here. I realize that a lot of folks really like the way that Ole Miss played over the weekend. There are some teams that had bigger wins than Tennessee who beat Chattanooga. But Nico Iamaleava looked very good. 22 of 28 for 314 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no picks in the first half. If Josh Heupel's got a quarterback that can pilot this ship, then they're going to be really tough to deal with. I also like their defense. I'm higher on Tennessee than most. I think Tennessee's a playoff team. I've got them in there at number 4. That's the Tennessee Vols. On to number 5.
The Ole Miss Rebels.
The Ole Miss Rebels. That means 1 through 5 in the power rankings, exactly the same as it was last week. Furman had 30 carries for 26 yards on Ole Miss. They are more physical at the point of attack. They are going to be better on defense than they have been, and the offense was humming. 772 total yards. I told you back on Friday I thought Furman might cover because Ole Miss was just going to run the ball a lot and the clock would bleed. Well, they ran the ball a lot. They just ran into the end zone all the time. So, look, Ole Miss is very, very good. I've got them at number 5. That is the same top 5 as last week. Georgia, Texas, Alabama, Tennessee, and Ole Miss. Last week I had LSU at 6. This week,
the Oklahoma Sooners.
I've got the Oklahoma Sooners up a couple of spots. I'm not going to claim that Temple's very good, but they did beat them 51-3. They threw a lot of horizontal stuff in Jackson Arnold's debut. He didn't have a lot of yards per attempt, and I think that's probably something they're going to ease into. It's a new play caller. It's not Jeff Lebby anymore, so we'll learn more about this Oklahoma team when they start playing real football. But I think they're pretty talented. I think Arnold's pretty good. I'm not completely convicted in this team, but I've got them here at number 6 to start.
The LSU Tigers.
I just dropped LSU 1 spot. I talked about this at the top of the hour. Yeah, they lost. It's a huge hit to their playoff chances. Absolutely. It doesn't mean I think they're a lot worse than I thought on Friday. I think it's a pretty good football team. A team that's got a chance to win every single game it plays on that given Saturday. They do have some warts. They've got some warts in the secondary, as Brian Kelly said. They got to figure out how to run the ball a little bit better, but I think it's a pretty good team. I've got them right there at number 7. Number 8.
The Missouri Tigers.
Got Missouri at number 8, 51-0 over Murray State back on Thursday of last week. I think they're pretty good, but we're going to learn more moving forward. Brady Cook's good. Burden had a touchdown. I'm not completely sold on their defense, and shutting out Murray State doesn't help me with that, but we'll see. I got Missouri at number 8. Number 9.
The Kentucky Wildcats.
Kentucky moves up a spot from number 10. Not a great debut from Brock Vandegrift. 12 of 18 for 169 yards and 3 touchdowns. He did throw a pick against Southern Miss. But this is the part where I start to kind of really have some issues with some teams. I just don't think Kentucky is uber talented, but I think they're the best of the rest here, so I'll put them at number 9. Number 10.
Texas A&M!
I only dropped A&M 1 spot, and here's why. Connor Wigman looked atrocious on Saturday. Absolutely terrible. And I don't think he's absolutely terrible. I think he's potentially mediocre, but mediocre is better than what we saw. And so I think Elko's a good coach. I think they're going to play defense. They did defend well against Notre Dame. Their offense is going to be better than it was. It may not be a juggernaut. It's not going to be a juggernaut, but it's going to be better than what it was. So, look, it's not like I have them as a playoff team. We got them at number 10 in the SEC, but I'm not going to drop them all the way down to the bottom because they lost to a good Notre Dame team. I think their quarterback's better than he showed. I got them at number 10. Number 11.
The Auburn Tigers.
Auburn's wide receivers last year were terrible. The wide receivers had 6 touchdown catches against Alabama A&M on Saturday, so already some improvement from a talent perspective. I don't know. It's Alabama A&M. Who really cares? I don't love their quarterback. I think Thorne is a very much a work that's already done, not a work in progress. So they're going to be limited in what they can be because their quarterback's not great, but I've got them there at number 11. Number 12.
The Mississippi State Bulldogs.
I moved Mississippi State up 2 spots. They moved up from number 14 to number 12. Is that because I think Mississippi State's really good? No, it's because teams dropped below them and they blew somebody out. It was who? Northern Kentucky or something. But I had to move a couple of other teams back. So at 56-7, Mississippi State moves up to number 12. 2 spots, big mover for the Pokes.
The Florida Gators.
Florida's bad. I looked at it on Saturday. You go, we didn't move A&M down a ton. We only moved Florida down 2 spots, but they earned it. Now Graham Mertz looks like he's hurt. They just don't have playmakers on either side of the ball. Miami just big-boyed them. Big-boyed him at the line of scrimmage. Big-boyed him in coverage. Cam Ward was way better than Graham Mertz. Florida just was not competitive in that game. So I've got them down at number 13. They're not the worst team in the league, but they're not good.
The Arkansas Razorbacks.
Arkansas now at number 14. They actually move up a spot. They were 15th last week, but I still just don't believe in this team at all. 70-0 against Pine Bluff means nothing to me. I don't think they're good at quarterback. I don't think they're athletic on defense. They got a couple of offensive playmakers that I think are pretty good players. Isaiah Satania can be explosive, but I think Sam Pittman is not long for it at Arkansas, and that doesn't change because they beat Pine Bluff by 70 in a stadium with no running water.
The South Carolina Gamecocks.
This is a drop 2 spots here. I thought South Carolina was bad, and they were worse than bad on Saturday. They looked really, really bad. Lenora Sellers is a really talented athlete. He moves well. He's got a good arm. But when you play Old Dominion and you had a month to get ready for the game and you go 10 of 23 for 114 yards with a quarterback rating of 17.7, that's a problem. And LSU is going to catch them at a great time next week because I think this team is bad, and I've got them down at number 15.
The Vanderbilt Commodores.
The Doors down at 16. And you would say, Hunt, they just beat Virginia Tech. You got to throw them a bone. In fact, I don't have to throw them a bone. I think they're bad. I think Diego Pavia was running all over the place, and I think Virginia Tech wasn't quite ready for that. And I think it was a great story, and I'm thrilled for Clark Lee. But if you put Vanderbilt and South Carolina on a football field tomorrow in Kansas City, I would probably take South Carolina with a little bit of reluctance. If you put Arkansas and Vanderbilt on a football field in Tempe, Arizona tomorrow, I'd probably take Arkansas. Now, admittedly, there's a decade plus of 2 decades, 3 decades of bias in that because Vanderbilt's been terrible for all of that. But just because you played better than Virginia Tech on a day where you did actually fall, but you let a lead collapse when they kind of gave it to you with turnovers, I just not sold.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate that you can't give Vanderbilt credit for
I said I was happy for them.
I know you're happy for them, but you're not giving them credit in the power rankings after this is after 1 week of play. We're supposed to be basing these rankings off of 1 week, and Vanderbilt won, and South Carolina almost lost to Old Dominion.
They won.
But barely.
They didn't have to go to overtime.
And it was
South
Old
Carolina
Dominion.
Didn't have to go to overtime. Vandy had to go to overtime.
If it was Old Dominion, Hunt, not Virginia Tech.
I still think Vandy's the worst team in the league.
I don't disagree with you, but
that's it.
Okay.
That's it.
No, it's the power rankings though. It's the power rankings are supposed to only be based off of what we've seen.
No, they're based on how good I think a team is and based on who I think would win on a neutral site. And it's not always going to, because the other thing that people get really cranky about is when I rank someone above another team in the power rankings after that team has already beaten them. But you have to realize that you can't put every team above every team they've beaten. There's too much cross-pollination there. So you can't do that. That's the way I see it. So to run through them one more time, starting at the top, it's Georgia, Texas, Bama, Tennessee, and Ole Miss in the top 5. That's the way it was last week. That's the way it is again this week. Middle of the conference, Oklahoma 6, LSU 7, Missouri 8, Kentucky 9, A&M at 10. And then the bottom half there, Auburn at 11, Mississippi State at 12. In the 13 spot, the Florida Gators, Arkansas at 14, South Carolina at 15, and Vanderbilt at 16. From an LSU perspective, you look at this. You play Vandy, I've got them at 16. You play South Carolina, I've got them at 15. You play Arkansas, I've got them at 14. You play Florida, I've got them at 13. And you play Texas A&M, I've got them at 10. You play the worst 4 teams in the league by my estimation, and you play 10 of the worst 6 teams in the league. Sorry, 10. You play 5 of the worst 7 teams in the league moving forward. That's a big help to LSU schedule-wise to have it shake out that way. So those are my power rankings. We'll do it every single week on Wednesdays. When we come back, we'll hear some sound from Brian Kelly, play some Take It or Leave It, and we will get on down the road. You're listening to a Wednesday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Neil and Melissa have been running things at Boudreaux's Electrical for 40 years. The process is so easy with Boudreaux's Electrical. You give them a call, 985-397-1562. That's in the same number they've had for 40 years, or 225-300-9389. When you make that call, you're going to set up that consultation. They're going to understand what it is that you've got in terms of square footage, what you want powered. Some people want the whole house up and running. Some people don't need that much. And so they'll get you into the generator that best fits your need. When it's installed, it'll be a full-time Boudreaux's Electrical employee that'll come out to do the installation, not somebody that's contracted in to do it. And when they do it, they're going to do it with the finest in copper and wiring. They're going to do most of it underground so that it looks nice. And you're going to have the peace of mind for 7 to 10 years of that warranty that the power's not going to go out at your home. Whether it's an ice storm in January like this year, hurricanes that come through, those nasty afternoon showers, or somebody just runs into a power line because they don't know how to drive. Those things happen around here, and you lose power, and it's a nuisance. Not with the folks at Boudreaux's Electrical. 7 to 10-year warranty on all those Generac home standby generators. Give them a call, 985-397-1562, or check them out online, boudreauxelectrical.com.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case of an after-hours emergency. The light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
All right, closing up shop here. Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Brian Kelly was on the SEC's teleconference earlier today. I wanted to squeeze a couple of bites in here from him. He talked about LSU's secondary. I wrote a piece up on LouisianaSports.net about it if you want to read the full context of everything. But we'll get to a couple of bites here. He talked about the safeties and what he expects to see against Nichols because there have been some injuries and obviously a targeting foul on Jordan Gilbert.
I think at the safety position, we're looking at Kylan, Deshaun Spears to definitely get a good amount of work. Jordan's nursing a bit of a deep thigh contusion as well, but can't play the first half. Jordan's got a bit of a turf toe as well, so he's cleared to play, and he practiced yesterday. So right now, a 3-man kind of rotation there at the safety position. So, yeah, you can expect to see a lot of work from those two younger players.
He's talking about Kylan Jackson and Deshaun Spears. Jordan Gilbert can't play in the first half, and he's hurt, and Jordan Allen's got turf toe. So the two freshman safeties are going to play a ton on Saturday, and I think that's a good thing. I think getting those guys experience is a good thing. I think the next month should be designed around getting some of those guys some experience, because I think they're the most talented defenders LSU's got at that position. And I think that LSU will be a better team and better defense if those guys develop and reach closer to their potential. That's just my thought. We're going to see some of that coming up in the game on Saturday. Zy Alexander's dealing with an injury. Obviously, they're working to get him back. And Brian Kelly talked about his corners and kind of what he saw from them and what he's expecting moving forward.
We like the work that Ashton provided us. We think PJ is coming along. As you know, Ashton is a sophomore. PJ is a true freshman. We just talked about Alexander. We're continuing his workload to get him up to the point where we believe he can be in the rotation for us. those three guys, you talked a little bit about, Sage, and, Sage is a guy that has flexibility where he could play corner, he could play safety for us. I think the next level players for us become J.K. Johnson and Jair Brown. They have to continue to develop. And that's really where the cornerback room starts and ends, with Alexander, with Stamps, Woodland, the flexibility of Sage, and then Johnson and Brown. That's your cornerback room now, and that's most likely what your cornerback room is going to look like throughout the entire season.
According to Kelly on the teleconference, Alexander is going to play some special teams this week. They're easing him back into the game, starting with special teams on to defense. So I think you're going to expect to see him play a little bit this weekend, and then hopefully a little bit more against South Carolina, and then maybe a little bit more UCLA, South Alabama, before you really get into the bye week and crank things up. And hopefully by the time Ole Miss comes to town, so Alexander is well on his way to being the corner that he can be, returning from that injury. So we'll just have to see. I'm sure Matt will have more sound from Brian Kelly coming up on After Further Review. All that from the SEC coaches teleconference earlier this morning. All right, Beck, take it or leave it.
All righty, first one here. Atlanta Braves left fielder Whit Merrifield, which, by the way, has got to be a top name in MLB. It just sounds like somebody from the 1800s. But Whit Merrifield blasted the pathetic current state of pitching in Major League Baseball. That was his quote, by the way, pathetic. After he was hit in the head by Rockies pitcher Jeff Criswell, Merrifield said, "It's BS. You can't hit a guy." By the way, he said he didn't just say BS. He said the actual words. He was very upset. He said, "You can't hit a guy back anymore. There's no fear that, if I hit this guy, then our guy is going to get hit. That's not the game anymore. Pitchers don't have to hit anymore, so they don't have to stand in the box. Take it or leave it."
I understand what he's saying, but I'm going to leave it. I just don't think that pitchers should be throwing baseballs at humans. That, to me, is ridiculous. And if you're deemed to have done that, I would drop a 15-game suspension. You cannot have guys throwing 100 miles an hour at other people. And if you're old school and you want to say, let them police the game, and you want to say, hit you showboat, you get one in the ribs, no, we're not breaking people's ribs or worse.
It's really stupid.
Because we've got a 100-mile-an-hour fastball and we don't like what somebody said or did. I'm completely out on that. I understand where Merrifield's coming from because he feels like he is getting hit and there's no retaliation. But I just think it should all be outlawed. And if there's any sort of degree of intent that is perceived, I would slap some serious suspensions on people because you just can't do it.
Yeah, I agree. Moving on here, Rory McIlroy and Scotty Scheffler are set to face off against Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka in what's being called the PGA Live Showdown. The foursome will tee it up in Las Vegas mid-December. It'll be televised on TNT. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. I mean, I'm obviously cranky with Brooks and Bryson and what they've done in part to the game of golf, and y'all have heard my narrative on that many times. But look, this is four of the biggest names in the world, four of the best players in the world. You could argue it is the four best players in the world. So I think it's great for golf to have something like that, and hopefully people will watch, and they can do more stuff like this. The more that the game is split and these guys aren't competing against each other, the worse. And it doesn't appear there's a agreement coming anytime soon in the world of golf. So this is the only time outside the majors we get it. So you might as well enjoy.
Last one here, Pirates pitcher Paul Skeens got chewed out by home plate umpire Doug Eddings after Skeens hopped off the mound. What he thought was strike three for the final out of the first inning. It was not. It was called a ball. It was a ball, by the way, as well. However, Skeens immediately went back to the mound, but Eddings yelled at Pirates manager Derek Shelton, telling him to talk to Skeens about it. Umpires stink. Take it or leave it.
Take it. This was absolutely absurd. Y'all realize that Skeens was pitching against the Cubs here, so I don't have my LSU Skeens hat on. I've got my Cubs anti-Skeens hat on for this game. And Doug Eddings, I want one day, and I'm kind of in a position that potentially it could happen because I do interview people all the time. I need to hear from Doug Eddings why he feels it is necessary in the first inning of a baseball game to have this situation transpire. To paint the picture like Beck did, there's a 2-2 pitch, and it's off the outside corner, and Skeens whips it in there, and he kind of skips like he got a strikeout. He didn't, so he calls for the ball back. And he takes the ball back, and he gets the ball, and he's turned his back to the home plate, and he's walking back to the mound to go throw another pitch. And Eddings takes off his mask and yells at Skeens to get back on the mound. And Skeens, if you see the video, y'all know how nice a guy Paul Skeens is. He's incredibly polished and put together and kind, and he turned around and he was kind of like shocked that the umpire was yelling at him. So then Shelton out of the dugout yells back like, what the hell are you doing? Just get behind home plate. And he's like, well, he's hopping off the mound like it's strike 3. He needed to not do that. You talk to him and tell him not to do that. Hey, Doug, umpire Doug, who cares if he skips? Just keep your mask on and call the next pitch. Why do umpires' feelings have to be material in this game? Skeens didn't even say anything to the umpire. It's just madness to me that these guys who are completely insignificant have these massive egos, and if anybody dares to potentially disrespect them, they've got to stand up for themselves and make a scene. Skeens is the All-Star Game starter. He's the attraction. He's the draw. He's what everyone comes to see. Nobody in the ballpark cares about you or cares what you feel like. Stop interjecting yourself into the game. It drives me freaking insane.
Yeah,
I don't understand.
It just goes to show that these guys cannot keep their emotions out of the game. And to me, it kind of makes you wonder, like, if he's going to act that way just because of that happening, how can you possibly believe that he could not influence a call he makes later in the game? Now, I don't think it did. But
Skeens didn't even do anything. That's the
exactly,
point. Like, if you've got one of these hothead pitchers that's yelling at you because they think you've missed a call, John Lackey used to jaw at guys all the time. Lester used to jaw at guys all the time. And if that happens, like, I don't want the umpire to react. I think it's easy not to react. But if they do, on a personal level, I kind of understand it. This was completely unnecessary. Skeens took one small hop, then called for the ball back and was walking back to the mound. And the umpire escalated the situation from a 1 to a 7 for no reason.
Yeah.
I don't understand the egos on officials and umpires. You are insignificant. You are. Especially home plate umpires. Get the robo-umps. They probably won't delay the game by yelling at the pitcher and the manager for no freaking reason. Unbelievable. Unbelievable stuff. All right. That's it for a Wednesday edition here of the Hunt Palmer Show. Lots and lots of news. The news of the day, unfortunately, John Emery Jr. reportedly has a torn ACL. I'm sure Matt's going to lead his show with that coming up here in about 5 minutes. We talked about it. If you missed it, you can find it at Hunt on LSU. SEC Football Power Rankings, J.D. Pickell chatting about all things college football. We also had the Saints record game by game. If you missed that and you want to see it, Hunt on Saints on YouTube. All right, that's it for Wednesday. Matt's about to drive you home on After Further Review. We got some player interviews this evening. We'll be back in action same time and same place tomorrow. Have a wonderful Wednesday evening. We're back tomorrow. It'll be a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.